Today is 16th, no? Your exams are day after tomorrow and is that it, Akshay?
Yes, sir. 18th and 19th.
Yeah, that is Friday and Saturday. Those are the days you don't have classes, I guess. So we'll finish Aristotle today. And in order to finish Aristotle, let's start. I think
Yes,
there
sir.
are four of you. Good enough. Let's get going. Come. Okay. Yesterday we were discussing two things about Aristotle. One, of course, was this concept of politeia. Politeia was one thing that we were discussing in conjunction with Eudaimonia. Uh, this is the telos. Oh, I've done it again. How do I do this? I'm a magician. I do these wonderful things. This is the telos, Politeia and Eudaimonia. Uh, and we were discussing that in Aristotle, everything has a primary natural potential and a fully developed form. This is his that's some okay. Looks like people are able to enter without the all right. Oh. This is his theory of form, which please remember is substantially different from uh, sorry, which is substantially different from the realm of forms that we talk about in Plato. So, well, now, so if you're talking about the primary natural potential, uh, and that this primary natural potential reaches its fully developed form. I gave you the example of an acorn, which is a seed growing into Who has entered? Well, the form of the acorn is the oak. The form of the acorn is the oak tree, right? So I told you that this is also applicable to human beings and human society. In the case of the human beings, I told you yesterday that we'll start in the reverse. Man is a social. How are people just able to get into the meeting without man is a social animal is the, I'll call it primary natural potential. Okay. Why is this coming and tormenting me like this? Man is a political animal, is the finished form, FF. P and P, primary natural potential. FF is finished form. This is what I was trying to tell you. Now, let us try to understand how it is that Aristotle arrives at this kind of a conclusion. Okay, now I don't know. My computer has gone crazy. Hmm. Okay. Uh, Now, man's primary quality, not just the primary natural potential. Please remember, the human being's primary quality, according to Aristotle, is his sociability. Okay, this is a very primary quality, and therefore, for him, uh, man is a social animal. this has everything to do with survival. Oh, sorry, man is a species being, sorry. This is not social animal here. Okay, and this has everything to do with survival. Uh, the human being is not a loner. Now, what is there are in that statement that man is a social animal? There are a couple of things of great significance. Okay, there are a couple of things which are of great significance, which makes Aristotle a pioneer in his own way. One is the acknowledgement that man is an animal. Okay, you don't find other people, other philosophers prior to that in Western tradition of philosophy and political philosophy. You don't find the acknowledgement that, now what am I supposed to do? I think I have to just close this. Why is it doing this to me and distracting me like this? Sometimes I think there are spirits in computers.
Why, sir? What is happening?
I'm getting this thing, 3 people are waiting, and your name, Kruparani's name, and Marri Raju's name are showing. And you're already here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I don't know why it is showing that. It's saying you're in the waiting room. And it's distracting me like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think it has some fetish in it, some spirit.
I think we got in directly, no, with before admitting.
Yeah,
So it is showing like that, I guess.
I
Some
suppose
hanging
so.
problem.
Yeah, I hope I've seen the last of it though. Yeah. So the first thing that is of great significance is that he has admitted that man is like other animals. He's an animal. Okay. Is not like other animals. I'm sorry. He's an animal, or the human being is an animal, with due respect to the feminists. Uh, and if we look further, we are also seeing that Aristotle, by acknowledging that the human being's sociability is only his primary natural potential, he is saying that the human beings can become better than other people, other animals, I'm sorry. And for that, one of the prerequisites is that should the human being should what should I say? Uh, the human being should become rational fully. And that is when he gets out of being just an animal into being a rational animal. So he's distinguishing the human being, he meaning Aristotle, is distinguishing the human being from other, other, what should I say, uh, other animals, by saying that the human being can become rational and can also live a properly organized life. That is what he is saying. So let us see this. There is a scheme of progression that you find in Aristotle. This scheme of progression is something which is pretty simple to understand. It's not all that difficult. And this is very much, this progression that he's giving is very much in uh, consistency with his theory of form. So he says, since okay, since the human being is a social animal, he has a tendency to form associations for his survival and for the flourishing of the human species or the humankind, if you like. Uh, Now, if you take this particular statement, it is very obvious that Aristotle is indicating that human beings form associations. That is what is the importance of that particular statement, right? And for him, I told you, unlike Plato, human society is not derived mathematically. It is not derived geometrically. It is not derived through deductive reasoning. For him, human society is like an organism, and organisms are those which are, what should we say, uh, those which have a life of their own, right? So, human society in Aristotle is therefore organic. The way he looks at human society is the way we look at an organism. In that sense, it's organic. So, the second thing that we need to understand is that Aristotle, by saying that we are organic, he is seeing us living happily in nature. He's not looking at us as people living outside of nature, which is what we are today, by the way. Okay, when we talk about civilization, when we talk about culture, all these words indicate the fact that we are no longer living in total harmony with nature. We are living in a bit of a disharmony with nature. And that is the reason why we come into conflict with other animals. For instance, if you take dogs, if you see stray dogs on the road, then what do people want? People want them to be killed. People write letters to newspapers and they'll say that let's take these, please take these dogs away, take them out and kill them. That's what they would say. And they would say that because we are no longer believing that nature is as much theirs as it is ours. That is the basis of those who talk about animal rights. Okay, I was involved in the animal rights movement for some time till I found that people have their own private agendas even in that. And so it was offensive to me that you use animal rights for your own agendas. So I left that movement, a very, very disillusioned person. But the thing is that animal rights movement has its own merits. The merits are that this nature is not for us to do whatever we want with it. We can't cut down trees. We can't kill animals because they are inconvenient to us. So, all these things indicate the fact that we want to kill animals, we want to harness everything in nature for ourselves. Please remember that even a plant or a tree is a life form. It's not something dead, right? So you're taking away the life of that life form when you are actually saying that I'll cut a tree because it's inconvenient to me. Or you will say, I'll kill an animal because it's inconvenient to me. Okay. So you see, we are now coming into conflicts because we are a nation, though we are the seventh biggest nation territory wise in the world, we are the second biggest nation in the world population wise, and we are definitely progressing rapidly towards becoming the most populous nation, which might happen in the next 10 years. That is what is the estimated time frame. It could happen earlier, it could happen a couple of years later, but it is the way we are going, it is going to happen. So what does this mean? That it means that we are going to need more space for human beings to live. We are going to need more space for human beings to cultivate crops. And all this will come at the expense of losing forests. The rainforests of the Nilgiris, the Sundarbans, the rainforests of Assam, uh, you know, like the Kaziranga National Park. Already the forests of Rajasthan don't look like forests. They look like a shrub. So we are coming into conflict with nature. And we are already coming into, I was reading yesterday about elephants and human beings coming into conflict in particular areas of Odisha. This has happened in the past when it was undivided Andhra Pradesh. It has happened in the Chittur, Anantapur areas. This has happened. And we have also seen that in the Nilgiris, which is the uh, Mudumalai forest, increasingly people are taking over the forest, bringing them into conflict with animals. So the significance of Aristotle is that he keeps emphasizing that we are natural. By that he means even when you become the most rational, even when you become the most rational, even at that time, you have not become extra natural. You have not become extra natural. You are still very much natural. That is what Aristotle is trying to say. So, Aristotle says man cannot be solitary. He's a species being, and that is evident from his being social. And that's why social animal. Now, just being social is not enough. He says man forms natural, oh God, Okay, so that is what Aristotle says. Man forms natural association for his well-being, and the most primary of all natural associations is the family. And the family happens because of the opposite sexes coming together and procreating. Procreation is a natural act. In fact, all those people who who condemn homosexuality or gay sex, lesbians, queers, and all that LGBTQ plus. I don't know. I don't know how queers are different from gay people. I really don't know. And whatever this lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, plus, whatever that is. Whatever that is, I don't understand that plus. But those who oppose these people say that they are actually being unnatural. Okay, that is what they are basically claiming, that they are unnatural. Why are they unnatural? They are unnatural because of the fact that they are only uh, doing something which is going against nature. Sex is something that is meant for procreation. So the Christian version of it, for example, the Catholics, they do not believe that sex can be for recreation. They believe it is for procreation. So if you're talking about procreation, then you cannot do it through LGBTQ plus. And that is why there is great opposition to those people, uh, especially in Christian and Islamic societies. I don't know, because it's not such a big thing yet in India. I really don't know what is the position of the Hindus on it, but I would guess it wouldn't be very different from that of uh, it wouldn't be very different from that of the Christians or the Muslims. That's a guess, except for the RSS, which you can't take to be the whole and sole representative of the so-called Hindu society. There have been no other organizations or individuals who have talked against this. But anyway, so for him, of course, in those days, I guess there wasn't, even if there was something like this, it wouldn't have been open as it is now, the LGBTQ thing, Q plus thing. But in those days, I guess there wasn't any. So the urge for the male and the female of the species to come together was to form a family, which is the first of the natural associations. So the family includes even the children, because after all, the coming together, as far as Aristotle is concerned, is for the sake of the well-being of the family. So obviously, you have to assume that includes the offspring of these people coming together. So therefore, I'm sorry. Uh, Therefore, it is for him, the family is for him the most primary and the first among all natural associations, because it is of a natural urge of the opposite sexes to come together. That is why it is a natural association. Please remember that association today has a different meaning from association as used by Aristotle. When we talk about associations today, we talk about them as formal, registered entities with a charter of rules and laws, bylaws as they are called. All those things are required. So it's a very formal affair. That is not what we are looking at in Aristotle. We are just saying that it's an association, as in coming together, right? So the most primary of all natural associations in Aristotle is the family. Then Aristotle goes on Oh God, what has happened here? Okay, to get that is, I'm not able to get the hyphen here to continue it. It keeps going back there. So actually, I have an idea. Yeah. Then Aristotle goes on to say that families come together to form the secondary association, which is the village. And okay, so Aristotle is qualifying this by saying that the village is a natural association since it is a result of families which are natural associations coming together. So the urge to form a family is a natural urge, and therefore when the family is formed, it is a natural association. But a family is not a self-sufficient unit. It cannot take care of itself, and we know that very well. If there is something happening in a household, maybe it is a good thing like a wedding, maybe it's a bad thing like a death. You need the help of other people. You need the help of other people. And that basically shows that even being a family is in itself not a sufficient uh, reason, or it is not sufficient and self-contained unit, not reason. A family is not a sufficient and self-contained unit. It requires the help of other families. So, several families coming together is basically what forms the uh, natural association among people, and The village, therefore, is an extension of the original natural urge to come together and form a family, and families coming together. Therefore, it is a secondary natural association. This is what uh, Aristotle says. Okay, so the village is also a natural association, but he is aware that he's not like Gandhi. Gandhi believed in Gram Swaraj, where every village he wanted it to be a self-contained, self-sufficient uh, kind of an associate, a kind of a life. Uh, and he famously said India lives in its villages. And therefore, for him, real independence was Gram Swaraj. And he wanted artisan economies to flourish and all that kind of stuff. But that's different anyway. So this is, a village is a natural association. But Aristotle does not believe that the village is again self-contained. Okay, self-contained, self-sufficient unit of natural association. It is not. So he says, okay, since villages cannot be self-contained, sorry, since they cannot be self-contained uh, and they come together to form the polis, P-O-L-I-S, it is the highest form of natural association. So there are three levels. There is a triad. The triad is family, village or villages, or you call it families, villages, and the polis. Now remember what I told you when we started doing Greek political thought. I told you that you should not translate polis as a city-state, because the polis is neither a city nor is it a state as we know them. That is the most important thing. Okay, that is the most important thing that you have to remember, that it is not something which is what should I say, a contiguous kind of a thing. You know, contiguous is all things are attached. There's a line and there's no break in the middle. You know, people say Kerala is a state and that it has cities and villages. But I have traveled extensively in Kerala by road. You have to travel by road, huh? That's when you get this experience. It's almost like the whole of Kerala is one city. It's like one city. You know, you keep going up a road and suddenly you'll find a board that says this is so and so village. You just cross that village and 20 meters away there is another board that says this is another village. So you see, Kerala is like one city. Okay, it is basically like one city because of the density of the population. Kerala has the highest density of population, and therefore you find this. And you will find this in some parts of coastal Andhra as well. Especially, I'm told, in East Godavari district. Okay, if you travel from Rajamandri to Kakinada, it's almost like traveling through one big village or big city or whatever. Okay, so that is what we expect cities to be. We expect them to be contiguous. We expect them to have development of a certain variety. All those things are not there. Here, if you look at the organization of a polis, there is an Acropolis. Remember, I told you this. Okay, the Acropolis is situated in the center where there is a mound or a hillock. Sorry. And you have that Parthenon-like structure built on the Acropolis. And you also have the statue of the deity. Like, for example, if it is Athens, uh, the deity of Athens was Athena. Okay, so you have the Parthenon-like structure, and you have the deity of Athena right in the right on top of the. It's on a small hillock, not really a big hill. It's a hillock, slightly elevated. And in that Parthenon-like structure, people, the citizens, met and took decisions. Now, please remember that the villages are not immediately surrounding that hillock on which the Acropolis is. Let's call it the Acropolis. Let's not keep saying hillock on which the Acropolis. The Acropolis is not surrounded by villages immediately. They are a little far flung. Okay, they are a little far flung, and people come from these villages to the Acropolis, only the citizens, mind you, only the citizens. They come there to deliberate about what is good for the entire polis called Athens. We are talking about Athens, though Aristotle was born in Stagira, uh, Stagira. He came to Athens for education. He came to Plato's academy. He stayed on there, more or less became an Athenian, except for that while when he was the teacher of Alexander Alexander the Great of Macedonia. Okay, so except for that duration, most of the time he was living in Athens, very much in Athens. And so we will talk about Athens. All this is with reference to Athens. So the polis is the highest form of natural associations, and it is only the citizens who can come for deliberations about what to do, what kind of measures to take for the security, all kinds of security. Security we normally we normally, what is the word? It's gone out of my head suddenly. Uh, uh, Security is something that we normally associate with safety. It's not just that. Today we also talk about food security. Secure life is leading a tension-free life. That is what secure is. I'm feeling secure, which means I'm not frightened. I don't have a fear that something may go wrong. Okay, if you have all those fears, then you're insecure. But if you don't have those fears, then you're secure. So Aristotle is basically saying that the polis is the highest form of natural associations, and citizens from various different villages gather at the Acropolis. They sit and deliberate on various aspects of security of people, not just citizens, of people who live in the polis, which is those villages which are not really very close to each other. And that's why it's not a city state. Please remember that. And it's not a state as we know it, because I told you, I repeat this again, state is a modern institution. State did not exist in any ancient period anywhere in the world. The state is a modern European institution which has spread to the whole world thanks to colonialism. But otherwise, the state is not an institution that is there in the ancient period, even in ancient Greece, leave alone India. Okay, the Romans didn't have a state. They first had the res. I've been told it's res publica or res public, uh, not publica. Res public or res publica. I really don't know which pronunciation is right. So they had some kind of a republic which had a triumvirate, which was nullified by Julius Caesar. And from being an ancient republic, Rome went on to become an empire thanks to Julius Caesar. And in ancient India, you had the Janapadas, right? You had the Janapadas, which were republics. The Janapadas had a chieftain who lived like everybody else. He didn't wear those big crowns and all that golden jewelry. He didn't wear all that. That's not how it was. Okay, the Janapada was a panchayat system. In fact, Gandhi, when he said, let's go back to the panchayat system, he was invoking the Janapada. And the beauty of the Janapada is apparently it didn't have armies. That is the beauty of the Janapada. It didn't have an army. Okay, they had some kind of policing perhaps, but not an army at all. So the chief was there and he was guided by 4 other people. All of them put together were the punch or the panch, 5. And so you had the Samiti, which was an elected body. So the Janapadas were elected bodies. The panchayats that ruled the Janapadas, they were elected. So Gandhi was talking about that Gram Swaraj. Anyway, so we didn't have, you have those books written by people like pretty good scholars like A.S. Altekar, who says state and government in ancient India. You had neither of them. Government, I told you, is institutions. Institutionalized form of governance is government. You had governance, but you didn't have a government. So the same thing can be said of the police. There was no government really. There was no government really. Now, by the time the police,
Sir,
yeah, yes, ma'am.
so in ancient India, the king and his court can't be said as an institution because they legislate there, right?
The king and his court is not a Janapada, sorry. That again is an empire or a kingdom. Okay, it is, people say with the Mauryan Empire, you had the wiping out of The Mauryan Empire first got rid of the Janapada system and it became a Mahajanapada, but later on it just became an empire. The king was the whole and sole sovereign, and what you're calling his court is not necessarily a body whose advice he had to take. He would consider their advice. If he found it the mantri system as it is, for some time people were trying to get rid of this minister vocabulary in India, and they were talking about they were referring even in English, Pradhan Mantri, Rashtrapati, and then you have uh, what Vitta Mantri. That's what our people were referring to. Vitta Mantri is the finance minister. They tried this for a while, Doordarshan, of course. It didn't work, so they gave it up. But it was not binding. The decisions, or rather the advice given to the king, only when it was solicited uh, was the advice given, and it was ultimately left to the king or the emperor to decide whether he'll take that advice or not take that advice. So even in India, we made a transition from Janapadas. Those were up north. Some people also say they were Ganapadas. Uh, did I have a discussion with you about this ever? Janapada, Ganapada, and all this?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
Okay, I'll have it one evening with you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then you'll understand me better. I'll I'll go through that with you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Um, with Janapada, Ganapada, Mahajanapada. Uh, I'll do that with you once. Then you'll
Yes, sir.
get a better understanding. Leave it for now, okay? Just take it as it was not binding on the king or the emperor to take the advice.
Okay.
Whereas in the Janapada, it was binding on the chief to take the advice of all the other people, the other four people. It was binding, right?
So
But we'll
that
talk.
there may be a presence of government then.
That's a system of governance. Government is like, having a parliament to legislate, a judiciary separately to interpret laws, give out punishments, a
Mm.
constitution, then some kind of, what should we say, uh, some kind of executive powers. All these were combined into simple powers. The same panchayat, the same samiti had all the powers. It was a judicial body, it was an executive body. It
Concentration of powers.
see, listen, there were no, you can't say it's a concentration of powers, Akshay, because there was no division of those powers, because you're looking at a very small unit. The government comes into being with the modern nation state, because modern nation states are very, very big. Now, in the case of England, or yeah, we'll talk about Great Britain. In the case of Great Britain, even though Montesquieu uh, saw a separation of powers. There was no separation of powers. There was a concentration of powers as you're talking about it. Okay, why? Because in order to become the prime minister, or in order to become a member of the council of ministers, you have to be elected to the parliament. Okay, you have to be a member of the parliament. If you have to uh, if you have to have a redressal for justice, the highest court of appeal was the House of Lords, which was again a part of the parliament. And apart from the House of Lords, in the House of Lords, there was yet another little body called the Star Chamber. If you were still not happy with the what should I say? If you were still not happy with the uh, arbitration of the House of Lords, you could appeal to the Star Chamber, which is, say, roughly the equivalent of a special bench of the Supreme Court as we see it today. Right? So that is a concentration of powers. So the United States of America went in consciously for a separation of powers, for the checks and balances. We don't hear that expression much here, do we? But go to America, they are all the time talking about checks and balances, checks and balances. And I used to joke with my American friends, uh, quite a few of them, and I used to say, listen, if you guys go on like this about checks and balances, and I am having a problem, and they would ask me, what is this problem that you have? Then I would say that my idea of a check and balance is for how much have I issued a check to someone and what is the balance left in my account in the bank. So for me, checks and balances are something which I uh, talk about only in the context of a bank. So you guys go on about checks and balances, and I keep thinking about banks. I used to only joke with them about that, but because whether they are good natured or not, they appear to be good natured. They welcome those kind of jokes. Uh, so it's not a concentration because there aren't so many different and distinct activities which need supervision from different departments and institutions. So therefore, there's no government. Government is institutionalized. Please remember, even the bureaucracy, it's not just the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive. Even the bureaucracy is a part of the government. The different departments that are there in the bureaucracy are a part of the government. So that's institutionalized. In a Janapada, like I said, it hardly had an army. It hardly had an army. I mean, it didn't have an army. It just about had some people policing. And from what I could gather, it was taken on by turns. Nobody was appointed as police or anything. Uh, people used to take turns to police in the night for the safety, but that's about it. So there was no power structure there. So you can't call it a concentration of powers. Anyway, that will become clear to you when I talk about all these things, which I shall save for next Monday.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Are you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So next Monday, that to evening, not in the, or let's see, whenever. If you want, I can do it today evening. It's up to you. Uh, tell me when we meet.
No, sir. We'll do behavioralism only today.
Okay, right. Then there's a lot to wait because behavioralism will take a little bit of time. Unless we take a break from that, go to this for a day and then go ahead. Yeah. Anyway, so Acropolis. So please remember there, therefore, that the police is the highest form of natural associations. It takes decisions for the good of all. But Aristotle categorizes populations. He's not radical like, uh, he's not at all radical like Plato. In fact, after Plato, for many people, Aristotle is a disappointment. Oh, wait. Okay, this, let me put this here. If the police is able to work for the good of its citizens, then it is a good police with breeding good citizens who in turn contri- contribute to the good of the police. So this is what Aristotle says. A good police breeds good citizens who in turn contribute to the furtherance of the good of the police. When that happens, man becomes okay, man becomes a political animal. Man becoming a political animal sig- signifies man reaching his full rational potential. Full rational potential. So He starts as a social animal, which is instinctive, but when he becomes a political animal, he is very rational. He is able to understand what is good, what is bad, what should be observed and what should not be observed, right? So this, if you like, coming of age of man, and I'll keep using man because Aristotle didn't include women. Okay, so man becoming a political animal means that he has reached his full rational potential, and that is the telos. That is the telos. Now you have the realization of politeia okay, and eudaimonia. Okay, I explained what, please read it like this. It's all, I can't take anything out. Politeia in conjunction with eudaimonia. What is eudaimonia? Eudaimonia, I told you, is happiness, fulfillment, all those different things. It's not one thing, it's a combination of many positive things. Okay, contentment, fulfillment, happiness, security, all those things are eudaimonia. So that is the reaching of the telos. And the telos is not set by the human beings. The telos is a predetermined. By definition, a telos is a predetermined goal. But like I told you yesterday, all acorns don't turn into oak trees. All acorns don't turn into oak trees. Some of them grow to their full potential. So similarly, all police, or rather all human beings, don't end up here with politeia and eudaimonia. It only happens in an enlightened polis. It happens only in an enlightened polis. It becomes a polis when there is politeia and eudaimonia. That is when it becomes a proper polis. Please remember that. Not all will become. So that is why he's saying a good citizen will contribute. A good polis will breed good citizens, who in turn will breed a good polis again. And so what is that good that he's talking about? That is the good called eudaimonia. So Aristotle Okay, Aristotle is teleological. And because he is teleological, he is not because he's a teleological thinker, he's not an empiricist. Okay, if you're an empiricist, then you would say everything I have to touch, feel. How did he know the teleology exists? So there is a bit of the Plato kind of idealism that you know certain things by birth. Aristotle is not fully defying that principle of innate knowledge. Otherwise, how does one know that there is a telos? And how does one know that you have to work towards that telos? So, indeed, there is a bit of idealism in idealism of the Platonic variety in Aristotle as well. He's not an empiricist. No, he's not an empiricist. Now, with your permission, can I just finish with Aristotle? I don't want to carry this over anymore. Can I just take some
Yes,
of these
sir.
out?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, please remember that Aristotle is a very big step back after Plato. In Plato, you find among the philosopher king class, you find women are ruling. Women are a part of that ruling uh, segment, not class, I'm sorry. Philosopher king segment. Women are also a part of it. They are not inferior to men. So Plato is radical. Plato sees the possibility of the human race rising to a higher level. Superman. And Plato does not mention slaves anywhere. And he does not mention even servants. He's talking about those who produce crops, who produce food through agriculture and all. He's talking about those who are uh, brave and will defend the ideal republic. He's talking about the enlightened rule of the philosopher king class. But where is the servant here? Which means you have to do your own work. That is what it means. You have to do your own work, which is extremely radical. So Aristotle is not like Plato. Aristotle did not believe in equality. Okay. The first part of what I have written there is pretty simple. Okay. Aristotle did not believe in the equality of women. Okay. But he didn't believe in ill-treating them. He didn't believe in thrashing them. What he felt is that men have to take decisions for women because women were not as rational as men. That is what he believed. All right. And then the next thing that you're seeing is he believed in slaves or people having slaves. Now, please don't confuse this Aristotle's slavery. Don't confuse Aristotle's slavery with Oriental despotism. Ah, madam has left, huh? Today? She. Okay. So, what is Oriental despotism? Oriental despotism was what came into India with the Muslim rulers and was practiced in the West Asian region of Khurasan, Iran, Persia. Okay, there people worked slaves to death. Prior to the Muslims coming into India, there was no institution of slavery. Okay. Uh, the Oriental despotism thing here, when applied to the slaves, is that people worked slaves to the ground. They didn't take care of their well-being. The average lifespan of a slave was 12 years. That's it. Use and throw began with slaves in Oriental despotism. Okay, you worked a slave till he died. It was cheaper to get another slave rather than continue with this particular slave and take care of him. Aristotle is not talking about that. Aristotle's master slave relation please read that as relationship is mutual assistance. That is the nature of the master slave relationship in Aristotle. Okay. Master slave relationship is mutual assistance. How is it mutual assistance? The slave is less rational than the master. And by virtue of his not virtue at all, sorry, by being less rational, he is incapable of knowing what is good for him. And by not knowing what is good for him, he cannot take decisions for himself and his family. So the master takes decisions The master takes decisions. He advises the slave, do this, this is good for you. Okay? Do this, this is good for you. It is good for your family. So the master is doing the mental labor for the slave. And in return for that, the slave is doing physical labor for the master. So it's a mutual assistance. It's not like Oriental despotism, where you work the slave into the ground. No, that is not the kind of slavery Aristotle had in mind. This is the kind of slavery he had. So please don't confuse that. But all said and done, Aristotle is not as radical as Plato. So Aristotle said, much as I love Plato, I love the truth more. Let me put it this way. I am no big shot, but much as I respect Aristotle, I don't think he was as great as, or he is as great as Plato, because he's not as radical as he is. So thank you. It's 10:41.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And Madam Padma went away very early for the next class. So thank you very much. And all the best for your exam. I'll see those of you who I see in the evening. I'll see in the evening. And I'll take only a 1 hour class so that I don't waste your time.
Yes,
That
sir.
I promise you. And Akshay, if I'm exceeding 1 hour, you'll remind me in the
Yes, sir.
evening.
Yes,
No,
sir.
no, I'm serious. I'm serious. I don't want it to come in the way of your preparation. It's nothing difficult, huh? It's very simple. The test tomorrow. So thank you very much. It
Thank you,
is,
sir.
yeah, thank you. So all the best, everyone. Do well.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.